It's time for the Unexed News. Extraterrestrials, time anomalies, dimensions, remote viewing, UFOs, UAPs, and USOs, ghostly encounters, abductions, Bigfoot, and more. Your end of the week news source for everything unexplained. Here is your host for the Unexed News podcast, Margie Kay.
Good evening and welcome to Unexed News. I'm your host, Margie Kay. We are here every Friday evening at 6 p.m. And tonight I have a special long edition with a very special guest. So stay tuned for the entire episode. And if you do have any comments or questions, you can join us in the chat and we will post that. I do want to remind everybody that the Unex Media Company that we own has a number of really good books available. We have this new one, How to Research a Haunted House by myself and Violet Wisdom. We go into great detail. This is a really unique book. There isn't anything else out there like it. So do check that out. It's available at Amazon right now, but soon will be in other bookstores. And then we also just published this book, Incident in Varginha, Space Creatures in the South of Minas. And this is by Vittorio Paccassini and Fernanda Perez. You may have seen the show that I did recently with them, interviewing them about this really bizarre but well-documented extraterrestrial and UFO event that happened in Brazil. There was a movie made about it by James Fox, so check both of those out if you would. This evening, my guest is Sheryl Arbogast. She is a retired RN. She was an RN for 45 years. She served in ICU. She served as a transplant case manager, worked in first-in-human clinical drug trials, acute rehab, SNF and hospice care, and inpatient psychiatric care, and also home health. She was a state leader for America's Frontline Doctors, Citizens Corps, and Telegram channel moderator for Ohio during the pandemic in 2022. She's a member of the Ohio General Assembly promoting natural law. She also self-healed from severe autoimmune disorders and vaccine injuries sustained from heavy metal poisoning due to 103 total lifetime vaccines. She's a detox and wellness coach employing Tesla tech and other bioenergetic devices. Welcome to the program, Sheryl.
Well, thank you very much. Hello, Margie.
Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. You are just a wealth of information. And so I had to have you on so that we could discuss, well, a lot of things. So we're going to dig right into some of the really, really horrible things that people are doing to us, people behind the scenes. Maybe you know more about who exactly they might be, but a lot of people know there are things that just aren't right. And one of them being this crazy, dark, weird fog that's been seen all over the world. What can you tell us about that?
I'm a victim of it. That's what I can tell you. I'm sick and tired of getting poisoned every daggone day. And they did it again today. Last night it was clear as a bell out. I woke up this morning. There was a horrific fog. My car was all wet with a residue on it. I just took it and got it washed yesterday because as these sprays come down out of the atmosphere, they land on surfaces. And our cars are especially a cog in the wheel because we go and put our hands on the handle and the door and we transfect whatever is in that sediment that settles on our vehicles. And then we touch our face and make ourselves ill by transferring that. It's like contact poison or recently a bacteria. And so people are coming up with all sorts of complaints and infections. Myself, I had an injury in September where I got a black eye. I had a bungee cord that I was trying to get out of my trunk. I was in that horrific flood. Again, more weather shenanigans. And I was having to move all of my possessions, and I was trying to get to a bungee cord in my trunk to maneuver things, and it snapped back and hit me in the face. And I had a shiner for 2 weeks back in September, right after Helene put 4 feet, 3 inches of water in my house. So it healed up, and then I was caught in one of these fogs on January 4th and 5th. 2 nights in a row, they fogged us, and I had to go outside in it. And then on the 6th, I woke up, and that black and blue mark was right back under my eye. My black eye returned, and my eye was swollen halfway closed in the morning when I woke up. And it's like there must have been a pocket of blood that was, still dissipating in there. And so I had some trauma that was still residual, apparently, that became a medium for this bacteria in this fog to create an opportunity to infect me. And that's what they discovered in this fog. I learned first about it from James Grundvig on his podcast, and he had Dr. Lee Merritt on there and Christiane Northrup both, and it was quite the show. And they have been spraying these pathogens on us over and over again. It's this particular pathogen got identified by a man who has a lab in Florida, and he calls himself the Fog Man on X, and he has a tagline that says just a guy in Florida with a lab, and he has a mass spectrometer.
Oh,
so
wow.
Identify any kind of substance, from its molecular specimen. So he found out that this fog had Serratia marsensins in it. And this is an opportunistic bacteria that I'm very familiar with. I worked with it in the hospital, in the ICU, and Serratia patients would get, the whole, bells and whistles for full contact isolation. We had to put on eye protection, gowns, gloves, and masks. And if we had a patient on the floor with Serratia, we had to don this personal protective gear for every patient in the unit so that we didn't take anything into any of the other patients from that one, just in case there's any chance of cross-contamination. We put everybody in isolation and had very strict, precautions for trying to keep that from spreading, because it is so contagious, and it is an opportunistic type of bacteria. So wherever there's a weakness in your body, it will go there and cause an infection in that part of your body. So commonly, if you just go on a Wikipedia search or whatever, it's commonly causing eye infections, urinary tract infections, gut infections, arthritis. Did you know that arthritis could be caused by a bacteria?
No, I certainly did not.
Yeah.
I mean, the
what else
layperson
aren't they
doesn't
telling
know
us?
these things.
Nobody does. I didn't know.
Oh.
I didn't know that when I was a nurse at our bedside, but I found out now from just updating my reading. And osteomyelitis, which is a bone infection, is commonly reported with the Serratia, and myocarditis. So,
Oh my God.
A heart infection. So I had this wound here, and it became an infection, and my eye swelled, like I said, almost halfway shut. It was all red, and I had like conjunctivitis, and then the bruising reappeared in the exact same shape and location where my trauma had occurred in September. And again, I was exposed on February 4th and 5th. So this was, 4 months later. And Serratia took that window or avenue to put an infection in my skin there under my eye. The other thing that it did was it gave me awful brain fog, and I even had what I would call a panic attack. Now, I'm not very panicky, but I was at a store doing some shopping, and this feeling overwhelmed me, and I got in the store and I couldn't remember what I had gone there to do. And so I just literally, my heart started to race, and I couldn't figure out why I was there. And I was trying to remember. And finally I did. Oh, I need a space heater. And then I couldn't figure out which way to walk to go and try and find it in the store. And that's what induced the panic. And it was like, what the hell's wrong with me? I'm not a panicky person. I'm an ICU nurse. I dance on fires. So this was totally out of character. And then the girlfriend that I was with, I spoke to her a week later, and she had spent the night, and she told me, you know what, after I stayed at your house, I got really sick. And I said, really, what happened? She goes, well, I just was so tired. I couldn't stay awake, and I spent the whole day in bed and just had malaise. But the worst of it was this brain fog, and I basically just had a panic attack, and I couldn't think to save my life about anything. And I said, I had that same exact thing happen to me. So I'm thinking now maybe it had fluoride as part of the concoction, because we know fluoride causes a dumbing down. It causes apathy, and it's used for that reason to suppress humanity's consciousness and make us apathetic and just not care what they do to us. We don't question anything or have any emotion.
Right.
It just shuts you down and makes you very flat in your affect.
It calcifies the pineal gland as well.
Oh, it sure does. That's a big thing that it does. Turmeric is a good decalcifier of fluoride. If you didn't know that, that's how you can use supplements to try and decalcify your pineal, is using turmeric. And 963 is the hertz of frequency. If you're treating it with frequency, that detoxifies the pineal gland specifically, is 963. That is also called the God frequency. And there's Gerd chiming in, my dog. Sorry.
Okay. I'll tell you what, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we'll talk more with Sheryl Arbogast about a lot of things. We'll be back right after this.
While most near-death experiencers return to this plane of existence with alluring tales of their time spent in the presence of the divine, what happens when one crosses the veil into the afterlife, into the void? In the new book, Dying to Meet Them, Mindy Toutfest describes her journey to the afterlife after a devastating aneurysm, how a strange turn of events would lead her to spiritual growth, divine healing, UFO experiences, and a greater understanding of the universe. Get your copy of Dying to Meet Them today at Amazon.com or visit unxmedia.com for more information on this book and more amazing selections from UnX Media Publishing at unxmedia.com.
Is it that?
The UNX Network classes and workshops are enrolling now for 2025. If you're interested in psychic protection, chakra balancing, dowsing, or perhaps healing with sound and music, visit unxnetwork.com to see our complete series of live and on-demand classes and workshops hosted by the one and only Margie Kay. For example, in January 2025, you could spend 4 Saturdays with Margie for her exclusive live remote viewing workshop. Margie Kay is one of the most accomplished remote viewers in the world, and she will share her secrets and totally unique methods in this course. Some courses are open now. Seating is limited for these live courses, so register now at unxnetwork.com. UNX members use promo code XMEM for an additional 15% discount.
Tickets are now on sale for Rebels of Disclosure 2025, May 12th through the 15th in Grafton, Illinois at the beautiful Pierre Marquette Lodge and Conference Center. This will be a 4-day event with 12 speakers covering topics such as ET contact, experiencer testimonies, lost history, secret space programs, time travel, Illuminati, parallel realities, and so much more. Visit journeytotruth.online for more details.
Hi, this is Margie Kay, and we're back with NX News. Did you know you can get a free bronze level membership at www.unxnetwork.com to get our free daily newsletter with all of our show listings? Get a paid membership for more perks. The UNX Network hosts shows that cover topics such as paranormal, UFOs, extraterrestrials, interdimensional, conspiracies, cryptids, time anomalies, hauntings, and more. We have an annual conference in October on Zoom, so please join us for that. If you check out nxnetwork.com, you will see that we've got all of the information about XCon coming up October 4th and 5th. So please mark your calendar for that. It will be virtual, so you can attend from anywhere. And we are putting together a fantastic lineup of speakers that you're going to love. So we are speaking this evening with Sheryl Arbogast. She is an RN. She was an RN for 45 years. And she has really gone down the rabbit hole in studying and, actually experiencing herself, and then also seeing patients with terrible diseases and ailments caused by a number of things. One of them, the most recently, is the fog, also chemtrails, and other things that have been going on. So we've been talking about that this evening. If you do have any questions or comments, you can join us in the chat on YouTube if you'd like, and we will pop that up for you. And it looks like we may have lost Sheryl. So she is coming back. She's coming back, right back, she tells me. So that's good. If you have had an injury sustained by vaccines or chemtrails or the fog, or if you have seen this weird fog. I know one day I went out here in Independence, Missouri, and I saw this strange dark fog, and I thought, this doesn't look normal. I've never seen anything like this before. And lo and behold, there was some substance on my vehicle, and I knew it was from that. I didn't touch it, thank goodness, because of what Sheryl just told us was awful. So I'm glad I didn't touch it, but I did take it right to the car wash and wash it off. Hey, welcome back, Sheryl.
Thank you. Boy, I tried to move my computer screen. I turned the power off.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I'm glad we got you back. What do you recommend to people who are seeing this fog and this substance on their cars? What should they do?
Avoid touching it if you can. Hose it off beforehand, or take a paper towel and wipe down the doorknob or handle. before you open your car door, and then try and get it washed as quickly as you can. Wash your hands after you make contact with anything that you suspect is contaminated, especially if it's sitting outside and the fog touches it. It's being bathed in these pathogens and whatever else they're putting in the fog. Also, to treat the serratia, I used chlorine dioxide, and I said I had an infection in my eye with it. Well, I made my chlorine dioxide up fresh, and it off gases for 60 seconds and makes a chlorine-y smell. And I just put my eye over the cup while that gassing effect took place for 60 seconds to mix the two chemicals. And that bathes your eyeball, or if you put it over your ear, you can treat an ear infection that way. If you had an open wound, you could put the wound over top of the glass while it's off mixing, and the gas actually will bathe whatever area you put above it. And so you can treat that way. Once the reaction happens, it takes 60 seconds, then you add water, and then you drink it. So I took it orally as well. And I just took 2 doses of chlorine dioxide that day when I woke up with the black eye and the swelling and infection. I off-gassed it and did a dose of like 3 drops, I believe. And then I repeated that later in the evening, and I did it again a second time the following day. So 2 more doses. I took 4 total doses of chlorine dioxide, and I was good to go.
And where does a person get that?
There's a company called kvlab.com, Kevin V. Victor Lab, LAB.com. You can purchase it online directly from the company, and they sell them in kits. And I buy the 4 ounces of sodium chlorite and 4 ounces of hydrochloric acid. And so you get 2 4-ounce bottles of liquid, and you just mix them 1 to 1, and it will dispense a drop at a time when you tip it over. So you just count how many drops you want in your dose, and then you put the same number of drops of the admixing solution, and then stop it. You let it mix for 60 seconds and drink it. So it's real easy to do. You can make up a batch ahead of time, and I'm going to have to go chase him. No, he's going to stop. I don't know what.
Okay.
He's old.
We've got a question from chat. Who is putting things in the fog? Has it been seen all over?
I saw a video that showed a band of this stuff coming in from the Gulf of Mexico toward Tampa. And Tampa is, they signed up to be one of the 15-minute cities. So they allow terrible things to go on in Tampa that most cities don't have to contend with. And I'm just close enough to Tampa to have caught in the tail edges of this. But I saw a video showing the path of this fog coming in from the Gulf of Mexico. So it started out over the water and it came inland. Who's doing it? I would suspect it's going to be found out that probably NOAA has something to do with it, NOAA. They're next on the chopping block for some of this exposure with the USAID that's going on in the political arena. But somebody's paying for this. Well, I can tell you, it's you who's paying for it. All the taxpayers are funding these black ops projects where they do this chemtrailing and create this fog, also other weather manipulations such as Hurricane Helene. And, I went through 3 hurricanes in 3 months recently. Enough. We're tired of this. The people in North Carolina, they had a hurricane in North Carolina, 300 miles inland. These are not normal things. I mean,
No. everybody knows that. I mean, when we saw that on the news, I was just astounded. And I told my husband, this is not normal. This is created.
Yeah, my ex-husband used to sit behind me and go and make fun of me to all of our friends when I talked about weather manipulation. And then when I showed him that Bill Gates was bragging about it and it was on the front page of the New York Times, he goes, "Oh, everybody knows that." And I was like, "You son of
I know what you mean.
what do? You get a
Yeah.
divorce. That's what I did. I don't need to be gaslit."
Well, you took care of that problem. Is it weather only or a reason to lessen the population?
Oh, it's definitely a depopulation agenda because people who are elderly and have poor immune systems or they're already sickened, these things are, they really increase morbidity. So it does attack people who are weakened, in a weakened state, and takes them out first. And they talk about the useless eaters. They've been broadcasting for decades how they intended to carry out this eugenics plan. It's called Operation Lockstep. If you haven't looked it up, I suggest you do so, or check out Deborah Tavares' Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, and you'll see, the outline for what we've just been through these last 4 years or so.
Okay, so we've covered the fog a little bit. I know there's a lot more to it. What about chemtrails? Those have been going on for years. A lot of people have seen them. A lot of people try to explain that away as contrails. So what is the difference?
More gaslighting. Contrails are nothing more than water vapor or condensation, and they dissipate in like 5 minutes or less. And oftentimes you'll see a passenger jet fly over and there's no exhaust coming from it whatsoever. So you don't always see a contrail, but when you see what you're showing on the screen, those chemtrails are heavy white lines that get deposited, and you can actively watch them spray as they're flying across the sky. And then they start to expand, and then within several hours, you'll have a total graying out of the sky, and it blocks the sun. Often you'll see specific patterns, and there's overlapping circles. You'll see X's all the time, or you'll see grids, depending on their flight path that they take. But once they do this spraying, the primary chemicals that have been found, and this is certainly not a comprehensive list, but barium, strontium, and especially aluminum. And their argument is that it's for climate change, where they want to block the sun and protect the earth because we have too much carbon, which is the absolute opposite of the truth. We have a lower carbon level than we ever have in, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of years at least, and it's getting to a critical low point. And we need carbon for plants to respire, and they generate oxygen in that process. So our oxygen levels are being depleted because the carbon is also going lower, and it's a direct proportion relationship. So this is very deliberate. It's called terraforming, and it is an agenda to change the gas and the land, and to, terraform everything and take everything over.
One of our listeners says that Cliff High estimates the chemtrail industry to be pretty much shut down this month due to lack of funding. One can only hope that that's the case.
Yeah, and if NOAA's up next, they're going to have to be exposing HARP radiation waves that are being projected out. So when they put these contents up in the atmosphere, aluminum especially, it's a metal, right? And it's nanoparticulate, And then we actually breathe that air in as it falls to the ground. And so we're breathing in nano aluminum particulate, and they're trying to fill our bodies as full as possible with metals, because metals will react to the graphene oxide that we know is in certain ingredients of something else that we will not say. But they are putting graphene oxide itself in the chemtrails too. It's been measured, it's been recorded. And when you get graphene oxide and a metal together, it's highly magnetic, and it's a trigger for that self-assembly process to take place. And so they ionize the sky by putting all this metal in there and changing the polarity of everything. And then they hit it with those HARP waves, and it can actually steer where the air goes. And that's how they steer storms and generate, these powerful winds out in California that aggravated the fires so badly, because they had over 100-mile-an-hour winds all of a sudden, right at the exact time of the fires. What are the odds? And so these things are weaponized. This all comes from the patents and research that was discovered by Nikola Tesla. And he wanted to do cloud seeding to benefit farmers, to create rain for their crops. And, in the wrong hands, you can turn that into monsoons and hurricanes. So that's where it originated from. This is not new technology. It's over 100 years old, some of the patents. And I've seen at least 100 different patents for weather modification. So if anybody thinks that this is conspiracy theory, they just need to maybe tune into C-SPAN and go back to 2013 when it was presented to Congress for the first time and hear them talking about, we're using barium and strontium and aluminum to do this chemtrailing so that we can control the weather. And then you have your megalomaniacs out there from the WEF saying, whoever controls the weather controls the world. And it's I wish it was a conspiracy theory, but it's a fact, unfortunately.
We've got a photo that you sent me. What is this?
My dear friend out in Washington State, she has been ill. She said she had a walking pneumonia for 13 straight weeks, and she just couldn't kick it. And finally she calls me, and we've been close friends for at least 5 years or more. And I've done some coaching or just given her helpful advice over the years, but she had a handkerchief in her car, and she had used it and threw it down in the car and left it there. And a week later, she had to blow her nose, and she saw the handkerchief, and she picked it up to try and blow her nose again and went, "What the heck is this?" So she did a little video talking about it, and she was very upset. She says, I know this is gross, but my snot dried on this handkerchief, and now it has this black residue on it. There was no black residue at the time I blew my nose. What is this? And so she tagged me on Facebook and asked me to weigh in. And I said, can you please check it for magnetic properties? So she scraped it off and put it on a sheet of paper, white sheet of paper, and got a powerful magnet, and she put underneath of the paper, and it was freaky deaky. She sent a video. Did you look at the video? Because the video was...
No, that's one of the things that I didn't see. Yeah.
Oh, in that same email, with that picture, there was a video, and it was only a couple minutes long, but she was running the magnet under it, and you could see that sometimes the black particulate aggregated, and it started to create a linear structure, and then it went into a larger ball. But then when she moved the magnet around, it would break apart again in some cases, and then other particulate actually would jump an inch or two away from the magnet, and it would just scoot away. So some of the
Ooh.
particles were positively charged and some were
Uh-huh.
negative charged, and the polarity would dictate how the movement of these particles were. But this was her dried snot. Okay, so how do we get
Yeah.
rid of this stuff from our bodies? To detox, and what we call cold symptoms or flu symptoms is detox symptoms. They are one and the same. So how do we do that? We encapsulate whatever the offending toxin is with our snot. Our body creates a mucus to surround and isolate that substance. And then we cough, or we develop sinus congestion and expel it through coughing and sneezing. We sweat it out. We urinate it out. We defecate it out, or we vomit it out. And women have an extra avenue. They, through their menstrual blood, can excrete toxins through that route as well, which is why women live longer than men, by the way. They have a better ability to detox their bodies. But
Oh, wow.
anyway, didn't know that, did
Learned something new today. Learning a lot tonight.
Well, this metal that came out of her nose, there's a backstory there. I had worked with her 2 weeks before this incident, and she was telling me, I have daily nosebleeds, and I can't. I've tried this supplement, this and this and this, and she was taking nicotine patches, which I strongly urge everybody to do. And Dr. Artis has been very vocal in getting the word out how to do that protocol. And I have transcribed it into a one-page handout that I share with everybody. But you just take like a 21 milligram nicotine patch, and I would buy Rugby brand or Lucy brand of nicotine off of Amazon. Those two brands are the least toxic. And then if you cut it into a half of the skin patch is about that big, and you cut it in half, and then you cut each half into 3 pieces, and that'll give you 6 pieces for every patch. And each piece is equal to 3 milligrams, because the patch is 21 milligrams, right? So it's like 3.5 milligrams per section. And you just put that patch on every day and change it and rotate sites. Nicotine, it's a super nutrient that neutralizes spike proteins, and it also was shown under microscopy to dissolve the graphene nanoparticulate or the graphene oxide. So nicotine is a very powerful antidote for people affected by these substances. But
can you also get nicotine by smoking cigarettes? I mean, is
every
people who
cigarette has
smoke, they're
about
going to
10
get that?
milligrams. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the people who smoke are protected, so they don't need to take the patch, but you can take lozenges or gum, whatever you prefer. But, you know, when you first start out, you might get nauseous, because it does make you nauseous. The first time you smoked a cigarette, you felt like you were going to puke, right? It's a stimulant, and it's makes your stomach gaggy. So once you build up a tolerance for it, that goes away. But if you know a 3.5 milligram segment is too strong for you, just cut it in half and start with a smaller dose. Peel it off if you feel like you're going to puke, you know. But you build up your tolerance, so you can, you know, just whittle it down and increase the size until you get up to that 3.5 milligrams a day, and that should be sufficient.
Okay.
And then the other thing was, she was doing this with the nicotine and it wasn't helping. So she, I told her she should add EDTA to her regimen, which is a chelator, and it completely dissolves snake venom. And it's used in hospital protocols to treat snake bites. And the people who have had this nasty infection going on for the last few years, they don't have, you know, a detectable virus. There's never really been a virus isolated. in all the testing that's been done. But what they did find was something they call plasmids, or it's called spike proteins or glycoproteins. It's a chain of proteins. And the effects of these polymer chains are identical to the effects of different types of venoms. And they identified 26 species of snakes and 10 species of other toxins, such as spider bites, scorpion venom, different reptiles, conotoxins from sea snails or sponges, marine animals that have toxic venom. There were 36 species total of venoms that they've identified in analyzing all of these different vials from Moderna and Pfizer. So those were the primary ones used in America, plus J&J. So anyways, to detox this, you have to do this on an ongoing basis. You can't just do it for a week and say, okay, I'm good, because they are adding it in the chemtrails. They've even found red blood cells and parasites in the chemtrails and all sorts of nasty things. So you really never know what it is you're getting sprayed with, and it's probably different concoctions all the time that they're throwing at us. But on that one particular day in early February in Naples, Florida, they isolated just that Serratia marcescens. So that is a bacteria, but it has parasitic features too. It was long thought to be a parasite until they proved it was bacterial. But
oh my gosh.
So anyways, the nicotine will help dissipate all these things, but she was still sick and still having nosebleeds every day. She goes, what can I do? And I said, I will do remote treatment with my frequency Tessla table, and I will recommend that you would add EDTA to your regimen. And don't ask me to say the name of the four words.
I was going to say, what is EDTA?
It's a chelator. And
okay.
Like activated charcoal is a chelator. And that's a good one too. That's a universal chelator that binds to toxins, holds onto them, and that keeps it in your gut. And then you poop it out. And it's a speeding up of your body to get rid of toxins. So it will recover your health a lot faster if you use a chelator. When you've been exposed or when you're sick, you can get better a lot faster if you use chelation therapy. Now the EDTA, again, is different from the activated charcoal, which is basically like a ground up briquette of charcoal from your grill, right? It's charcoal. But EDTA, the kind I get, comes in a liquid and it has a dropper. And I buy it from Brian Ardis's website. And his website is drardisshow.com. So it's DRARDIS show.com, drardisshow.com. So it's $38, I think, for a bottle of it. And you just take one dropper full, and it has a marker on the dropper where it's 1 milliliter delineated on that dropper. So you just take 1 milliliter of that, and you would take this in the morning on an empty stomach, and then wait 2 hours before you eat, and wait 2 hours before you take your vitamins or supplements or any medications that you might be on. And the reason is because chelators bind everything. They even lynch the minerals out of your bones and out of the food you just ate. So it neutralizes all the nutrients and everything that you ingest. It's a, no holds barred. It'll clear everything. So the timing of when you use this is critical. And I have so many people who I've coached about how to, detox their bodies, and they're going, I'm doing all this stuff and I'm not getting better. And I said, okay, walk me through your routine. And invariably I find out that they're taking it all at one time. And so they're neutralizing all of the things that are healthful, and the minerals and supplements that they take, they're not getting any benefit from them because they're neutralizing them with the chelators by taking them simultaneously. So you have to time it. That's critical to know that. And you have to always drink a lot of extra water when you detox anything, because your kidneys and liver also have to filter this crap. And when you have a heavy burden and you're chelating, your body is overwhelmed with these toxins. And so by hydrating extra, you're going to dilute your blood and make it easier for filtration with less damage to your kidneys and liver, because you can get organ damage from detoxing if you do it the wrong way. And this is why I coach. This is why people need advice. And no matter how many handouts that I create for people, I always end up having to spoon feed it and walk them through it one by one by one. And that's how I help people to heal themselves, is just one person at a time. I can spout it all day long, but until it's you personally on a one-on-one, they seem to not hear, and they need repetition because it's complicated. It really is. I mean, I did it in ICU, and it was, people were dying, if they had been poisoned on the job, or they tried to commit suicide, or someone was trying to kill them. I had to take care of those people. I had to detox them. I had to know how to look up the antidote, and then I had to know what to do after I gave them the antidote so that their kidneys didn't shut down. So there's a lot, two-step process there. You have to protect the body and organs and also get rid of these poisons. But EDTA, she added that, and the very next day, the bleeding in her nose stopped. And then it was about a week after that she started blowing the graphene oxide out in her snot. So I had been using frequencies from the Tessla table to send healing to her. And then she started purging this nanoparticulate in her snot, in her mucus, which is how your body will detoxify itself. So what I learned recently, there's a doctor who was on SGT report, and he's being tagged to join the Trump administration under RFK Jr. To help with the Department of Health and Human Services. And so he was saying that the magnetic properties, the electromagnetic properties of like Rife frequencies and PEMF, that disrupts the electrical field of the nanoparticulate, this graphene oxide. It changes the polarity of it. And when you do that, it breaks down those bonds. And so it can't self-assemble. So when you use frequency, it actually can make that not have the tendency to migrate around in your body and be receptive to remote signaling from like targeted individuals, or through cell phones and cell towers and smart devices that are emitting radio frequency signals that are harmful to our bodies. Their plan is devious, but they want us full of metals. They want us full of graphene that will bind to these metals. And graphene oxide is used in your computer circuitry to increase the bandwidth so that it can carry more data. And it's carbon-based, and it's a hexagonal-shaped molecule that's carbon-based. And so we're carbon-based, right? So our bodies don't reject this stuff. It's the perfect medium to go between artificial intelligence and our biology. So that is why graphene oxide was selected. People call it black goo. They call it hydrogels, but it's this nano graphene oxide stuff, and it's very magnetic. And when you use frequencies, you can interfere with that self-assembly process. And they have been attaching this nanoparticulate to parasites and to bacterial pathogens. And they are creating chimeric bioweapons that are being sprayed in these chemtrails and injected, and other ways they can get it into you. If they can genetically modify the seeds and the plants, they can give you one of these with, by growing it in your lettuce. And all you have to do is just eat your veggies, and you got your vax.
Oh, no. You cannot.
Oh, yes.
You're not serious. Oh, my gosh.
It's a deep rabbit hole.
Oh, it is. It is. We've had an organic garden for years because I didn't trust anybody else to grow my own food. My husband is the green thumb. But the thing is, in the winter, you don't always have this. So in the wintertime, you've got to go to the store, get the stuff. I wash my vegetables. Is that good enough?
If your vegetables are being grown outside, you have to realize that the chemtrails are also landing on your vegetables. And so they say that once these substances are sprayed on our veggies, you can't wash them off. It permeates through the skin and it goes throughout the entire fruit or vegetable. So I'm not so sure you can wash that off. Now, if you have a greenhouse and you can prevent this contamination from condensation out of the chemtrails or the fog, then perhaps. But I don't know, washing might certainly help, but over the course of the growing period, is it permeated through the entire fruit or vegetable? I don't know. So even when you go to a store like Sprouts or a Whole Foods place where they have fresh vegetables and they're organic, they have a sprayer that comes on every 60 seconds or so and mists all of the vegetables there, right? You've seen that. You've gotten sprayed by accident with that stuff. They all use a chemical in that water that contains forever chemicals. And so even though it's organic, they're using forever chemicals in that spray to mist the stuff in the store.
No, here I thought it was just water.
Yeah, and if you're using Bragg brand of apple cider vinegar, Katy Perry bought that company, and she's using Bill Gates' Apeel, APEEL, apples to make her apple cider vinegar now. And that is a forever chemical. It's carcinogenic. And, Bragg no longer has a lot of mother in the bottom, how you have to shake it up to get that dispersed in there. Well, Bragg brand doesn't really hardly have any mother in it anymore. And the apples have this toxic chemical added to them so that, the apples never decay and everything. But Bragg brand has gone woke. And I strongly recommend that you buy only organic apple cider vinegar, and you have to read every label. Even stuff that's labeled organic will even say that it has natural flavors added. Now, if it's really natural, they would say that flavor is cinnamon or salt or onion powder. They don't need to say natural flavors, because what is natural flavors? Well, it could be anything. It could be thousands of things, or it could be HEK 293, which is aborted fetal tissue that contains a chemical that induces your brain to perceive things that are sour or bitter as sweet, so that you will crave and binge eat that food. And it's an aborted fetal tissue culture that was developed in 1978, and they had to kill 293 babies to find one with this specific genetic mutation that, works on our gene level to induce this taste response, and they call it natural flavoring. So when you see natural flavoring listed in your ingredients, put it down. If it starts with a 4, leave it at the door. That means any fruit or vegetable with a one of those barcodes on it and the numbers start with the number 4, that means it has pesticides and forever chemicals in it. So any produce that has a 4 at the beginning, don't take it. If you're buying organic, it'll start with a 1 or a 9, and it'll be a longer number usually. But the 4-digit numbers that start with 4, those have pesticides on them. And organic doesn't mean that it's not genetically modified. That's a word that means something completely different. So you might get something organic, and it still could be, contain a bioengineered ingredient, which would be maybe that HEK 293 I just told you about from aborted fetal tissue. Do you know who S.G. Anon is? Have you ever heard of him?
No.
He's a very widely followed podcaster, and he gets a lot of military intelligence. He started his rabbit hole career by discovering the HEK 293 thing, and he's been very vocal about teaching people what are the ingredients in the foods. And then they have all these different names for various types of crickets and other insects that are ground up and used as a protein source, or in flour to make pizza dough, or, in our bread products, but pet foods especially. And we can't digest these things. Chitin is like the outer exoskeleton of like crickets and insects, and we can't digest them. And it rips holes in our gut and causes, we lose our immune ability because we have leaky gut syndrome. And these things cause that. So, they want us to eat the bugs.
Yes, they do. And they did go public about that. We are definitely going down the rabbit hole with you tonight. Sheryl Arbogast, we are going to take a short break, and we'll be back right after this. Debbie Ziegelmeyer is an experienced diver, dive trainer, and UFO investigator who has researched sites around the world that have water-related UFO activity. That even the Pentagon admits that there are unknown objects in the skies and underwater around the world. Debbie compiled an amazing book to catalog many of these sightings. The Alien Colonization of Earth's Waterways, a reference guide to UFO, USO, water-related activity, has received rave reviews by UFO researchers and the public. The book is available at Amazon.com. Unlock the mysteries of the spirit realm with the new book, Meeting Wallace. In this channeled work by renowned psychic medium Larry Costa, the reader will delve into the profound wisdom of his spirit guide, Wallace. Together, they share the transformative journey of harnessing psychic powers from the celestial plane. Discover the extraordinary psychic gifts that have empowered Larry on his path, and immerse yourself in a thought-provoking and awe-inspiring read. Meeting Wallace is a groundbreaking endeavor, and it is a perspective seen through the eyes of a spirit guide. Discover the wisdom of the spirit realm alongside actual photographs of ghosts and spirit guides. Get the book Meeting Wallace by Larry Costa at Amazon.com. And we're back. I'm Margie Kay, and this is UNX News. And this evening, we're going down a very deep rabbit hole, talking about conspiracies, chemtrails, diseases, the fog, you name it. And in a few minutes, we're going to be talking about the Tessla Med Bed. So please stay tuned for that, and frequencies. Before we get into that, though, Sheryl, I did want to touch real quickly on Morgellons disease. That was, widely publicized several years ago. We haven't heard too much about it lately. Is that still going on now?
Absolutely, it is. And some people have been dealing with this like a silent battle. Uh, I know two people who have it um, in my local Patriot meetup group. So it's it. Nobody wants to talk about it because everyone's freaked out by it. As I understand it, it is like uh, silicone fibers, and they're fused with this graphene oxide or nanotechnology. And it's not a living thing. Um, but in the early days, I remember Gene Decode talking about it like it was a parasite fused with nanotechnology. And I think maybe there's different kinds of these bioweapons, and they might be two different things. Like one is parasitic, and one of them is a silicone based hybrid that contains the nano. But for example, as an RN, I had a consult to evaluate leg wounds that wouldn't heal on a gentleman, and I'll just summarize real quick. He was in the military and took jungle training in Panama and was exposed to some kind of chemical, and he developed a terrible leg infection. He ended up with partial amputations of both of his feet, and he had Morgellons. And when I went to see him, I knew what it was. I'd seen a lot of videos, but I had never actually observed it in practice. But he says, I have these little things that feel like screens, like on the screen door, like that material, and they come in and out of my skin. And he goes, oh, here's one now. And he showed it to me, and I was like, oh my God. And I could see it. It would curl up, and then it would straighten back out, and it would come out of his skin, and it would go back in his skin, and then it would come out of his skin again. And I sat there and watched this, and I was abhorred. I took my clamps and I grabbed a hold of it and pulled it, and it ripped some flesh out when it came loose. And I put it in on a paper towel and put it in a baggie, and I took it to my nurse manager. And I said, listen, this gentleman has a disease that I know what it is. It's called Morgellons, but it's not medically recognized. The medical community refuses to acknowledge that this disease exists because it's a bioweapon, and it's, top secret, and no one can talk about it, and the doctors aren't told about it, and they only know what the CDC tells them. And so if you tell your doctor you have Morgellons, they'll label you insane, and they'll prescribe antipsychotic medications to treat the condition. And if I would have told him the things that he could do to counter it, I would have lost my job, because I would have been gone off track by practicing without a license. So, it was such a struggle to try and be in the profession when you know too much, because it'll get you fired, it'll get your license pulled. It's a
Right.
crying
And then you
shame.
can't help
The things
anybody.
that Gene Decode was recommending to treat it, there's a really good detox bath. And this bath saved my life when I thought I was headed for the emergency room, because when I had this first exposure after everybody got jibby-jabbed, I just had to go through a horrible illness like blood poisoning. And I vomited and had diarrhea for 6 straight days. I couldn't keep down water or any food, and it was just pure water coming out of me at both ends. And I got severely dehydrated, and I lost 10 pounds in 6 days. And I started to see halos, and my knees were buckling, and my stomach was fluttering like I had no blood sugar, like I was ready to pass out and have a medical crisis. And I got these ingredients from the Gene Decode detox bath, and it was magnesium salt, bentonite clay, baking soda, and alfalfa hay, which is sold as bunny food at the pet store. And you can buy these little bales for $8 or $15, depending on what size you get. And you take that hay and you put it into a mesh bag or cheesecloth and make a giant tea bag out of this hay. And you put that in your bathtub and you soak in there in really hot water for about 40 minutes. And what happens is the parasites from these exposures, they prefer chlorophyll over the human body as a food source. So
Oh,
they voluntarily come out of your skin and mucous membranes and they swim into the alfalfa because that's the lunch they'd rather have. And so there's not a toxic die-off of parasites in your body when you use the alfalfa bath. And it gets the parasites out without giving you a bad detox reaction is the thing. So it's really helpful in that regard. And you can use it for your pets and you can use it for children where you don't know what's a safe dose to give them of all of this other stuff when you're trying to detox everybody and you see your children are sick and your pets are vomiting and they won't eat and they have, all these skin conditions.
mm-hmm.
And we don't know what to do for them, and nothing is working that's conventionally been used in the past. So this detox bath, literally by the end of it, I broke my fever. I had 103 fever for the entire 6 days.
Oh,
And by the
gosh.
end of the bath, my temperature was down to 99, and I was exhausted, and I slept for 12 hours. And when I woke up, I felt great. I felt fantastic, and I was starving, and I ate, and I was fine from that day forth.
Mm-hmm.
So that was how I recovered from it. But this detox bath was a wonderful thing. I'm going to show you a picture. This is funny. This is what this is after I was recovering.
Oh, my goodness.
And I didn't have a bag to put that alfalfa in. I mean, I thought I was going to go to the emergency room. And so I just put the hay in the tub loose and it clogged my toilet. But I mean, my drain pipes on my bathtub. But it got me over the illness like within 12 hours. It saved my life and saved me an emergency room visit. So I really recommend that detox bath for everybody.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure everybody needs it too, because we've probably got all kinds of stuff in us that we don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get ill and there's no explanation. Well, yeah, detox, it can't hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Well,
worth a
speaking
shot.
of, I had a misspeak there and mention toilet because that's on my mind and something we were going to talk about. Can I talk about the experience that I had here at my house?
Sure.
I had a clogged toilet and needed to use a snake to try and get the clog unstuck. And when the snake came out of the toilet bowl, it dragged some kind of metal particulate out of the pipes. And everyone says, oh, it's just iron. But I've seen iron coming out of pipes before, and I know what it looks like, and it has a red tinge to it, and it creates a sheen on the top of the water if it stands for long enough. And this wasn't that. This had a lattice. It created a lattice where the little metal shards were floating on top of the water. And I was like, iron doesn't float. Iron's heavier than water and it sinks. So this is not that. And I scooped some out with a paper towel and let it dry. And then I ran a magnet under the paper towel and it moved the shavings around like an Etch-a-Sketch. And it was magnetic. So whatever this was, I know it wasn't iron. And then I had a plumber that actually had to come out and unstop it. And he used an auger. And I said, do you think that is iron? He goes, it doesn't look like iron to me. And I said, no, I didn't think so either. He goes, I've never seen that before. And this is a professional plumber. He says, I don't know what that stuff is. I said, have you ever heard of graphene oxide? He says, yes. And I said, I think that's what it is. And he goes, you might be right. So,
Oh my goodness.
this stuff is everywhere. It's in our pipes. It's in my friend's nose. It's, they're putting it into everything, and people are getting sick and having like walking pneumonia, stuff that they normally would bounce right back from. It just, recycles and resurges, and they have like cyclical symptoms, but it never completely goes away. People who have had surgeries have had all kinds of abnormal sequelae trying to recover from their surgeries. And they've tested a lot of the injectables that are being used in medicine. And 7 out of the top 8 injectables all were found to contain graphene oxide. And I'm talking things like insulin, heparin, epinephrine to use to sew stitches in somebody, Novocaine for dental procedures. And I've even found dentists who have been taking advice and requests from their patients to use a magnet on the side of the vial to attract any magnetic material suspended in the medication and hold it against the side of the vial and then drawing off of the top so that they don't suck the graphene up with the rest of the solution in order to get the Novocaine to do the dental procedures.
Wow.
I know a dentist at the Tessla table, and he's like, oh my God, I didn't know that I needed to do this, but he started looking into it too.
Well, that means that it's in all of us for sure.
Well, they've found that like antibiotics, and it has the manufacturer name or some numbers to identify the pill on the side of the medication. And if you put that in water and dissolve it, it isn't ink. It's actually a metal that will, drop down in the glass. And, if you have it in a glass of water, if it was ink, it would just dissipate in the solution, but it's not. It's metal, and then the residue sinks down to the bottom. So there have been a lot of experiments showing that too. So they're putting graphene into everything and trying every clever which way to get it into our bodies that they can. And at this point, I think all of the pharmaceutical agents are doctored and have contaminants that aren't disclosed in the ingredients. And they were injecting people while they were under anesthesia because they could get a big stipend from CMS, and they're about to be evaluated for fraud and abuse too. But they were carrying out a lot of the financial money laundering stuff that's been going on with all of this stuff. I think I told you I knew a mortician who was just inundated with customers, unfortunately. And there was a death benefit if you had a particular diagnosis on your death certificate. And he was expected to direct them to a website, a governmental website under the CMS system, which is your Medicare, so that they could collect a nearly $10,000 benefit for people who had that diagnosis listed on their death certificate. So it was all orchestrated, and everyone was tapping into the finances and money, get your cut. But they set this up because they knew there was going to be a lot of deaths, and people didn't have the money to pay for an unexpected funeral for their 10-year-old,
Oh my God. Yeah, that whole thing, right from the beginning, I knew there was something seriously wrong, but we can't say what it was because YouTube will take us down. So we can't just use the word, but we know what we're talking about. Okay.
Let's talk about solutions.
Yeah, let's do that. And let's get into the Tesla Wellness Table. How about if I bring that PowerPoint up and I'll let you talk? Hopefully that will work. I think it probably will. Let me share my screen here. And it's not showing up here. Okay. Let me let you talk about something else real quick while I'm bringing that up. Well, just go ahead and tell us a little bit about the Tesla Wellness Table frequencies. Where did this idea start? I know Rife had a lot to do with this. I know he discovered a lot of frequencies, and Tesla did as well. What's the history?
I had an opportunity to meet a person who builds all sorts of technologies in different combinations, and his name is Paul Esch, and he has been building bioenergetic devices for 40 years, and he studied different scientists, but primarily Nikola Tesla and quantum physics, and also Royal Rife and like Lukoski, multi-wave oscillators and radionics and terahertz and all different types of energy forms that you can deliver. He's put these together in unique ways that's never been done before. And he builds cold lasers, and these cold lasers are used by a practitioner in Crystal River, and she works with autistic kids and helps them regain their speech and improve their behavior and focus and attention and learning ability. And she's having amazing results, and she's sold these cold lasers in over 100 countries. And Paul builds all of her devices. But 3 years ago, he decided to make a med bed out of it. And it's a massage table. And then he has a Tesla coil. And it's a rather robust one. I think it's about 48 inches. It's, very long. And in the middle of that Tesla coil is a secondary coil of heavier gauge copper. And that is a powerful amplifier of the electrical current coming off of it. And then it has plasma lights on either end at the head and foot of the massage table. And those are noble gas bulbs in those light boxes. And we use different combinations. Any noble gas is usable, but we typically use neon and helium and argon. But we have some of the distributors out there using krypton and xenon and experimenting with different noble gases. So I'm anxious to hear feedback if they're having any kind of breakthroughs or different results. But these noble gases create a powerful electrical field that is 180 degree opposite of each other at the head and foot of the bed. And then you put your body on the massage table directly in the path of that electrical current. And so just like you see Nikola Tesla sitting there with electricity buzzing through him and around him, electricity going into your body recharges your cells. And when you think about grounding and putting your feet in the ocean and having that electromagnetic reset from being at the beach, it's like that, only amplified. And then it's all hardwired into a single computer unit that has radionics with it, terahertz frequency, and also a Rife frequency generator. And you can program any number in to the Rife frequency generator. There's the slides. And you can control the type of healing that you're trying to get. But after using this for a couple of years now, I found that I was using a grouping of frequencies over and over again. Every time I looked up what was bothering them, particularly with pain and inflammation, and it didn't matter if it was arthritic or if it was from multiple sclerosis or a neurological condition, even paralysis and neuropathies from diabetes, where they have no sensation at all, or people with Parkinson's that have tremors that don't stop. These groupings of frequencies that were really good for inflammation and nerve inflammation, and we know inflammation causes pain. There was a set group of frequencies that kept coming up over and over again. And I found this out by just seeing patterns from looking them all up individually over and over again. And then recently we had a distributor who knew a neurologist who did brain mapping. And they started doing some brain mapping images before and after getting on this Tesla table with all these different carrier waves coming in from Rife frequencies, PEMF off of the Tesla coil, electrical current off of the plasma lights, and terahertz frequencies. And even we add sound, music, color lights, and vibrational energies, and incorporate all of these into the quantum entangled field. And these combinations of energies that are all hardwired into a single unit create something that's quite different than any of these individual devices. Like a lot of people have Spooky 2s and other types of Rife machines, and they all create scalar. But the energy field coming off of this Tesla table is super powerful. And we started seeing some incredible miracle results with some people who were very sick. The people who aren't real sick, like yourself or me, for example, we might not feel a whole lot, but we do if we're energy sensitive, and some are and some aren't, but that doesn't mean it's not helping you. But for the people who are really sick, we saw miracles, literal miracles. I had a man on my table who was diabetic, and he fell asleep within 2 minutes because it creates that parasympathetic metabolism that puts you in homeostasis. And that's because PEMF creates that theta brainwave pattern, and that's what puts you into parasympathetic. It calms your brain, and you have to have good rest in order to heal, or for children to grow. If they don't sleep, they're not going to grow as well. And so we know that for our bodies to self-heal, they have to have homeostasis. Well, you create homeostasis with these theta brainwave patterns. And then you also need the cells to be able to communicate clearly with each other so that your body works in coordination the way it's supposed to. And by using the powerful electrical field and the right frequencies, it does reset the electromagnetic field of your body, and it will make the cells communicate right. And that is the other component needed for homeostasis, cellular communication and theta brainwaves. So that's what this table does in a nutshell. And go ahead and flip through the slides. That's Paul. And he's just a miraculous man, a very high vibrational guy that you get in his presence and you can see his aura. I hear a little buzzing. Is that you or me?
Must be you. I don't hear it.
Maybe I bumped my microphone. Yeah, that's what it is. I moved this wire. Okay, that's better. And let me put my glasses on so I can see what I'm looking at. Basically what I told you, how he combines these different modalities into a single unit. And he's based out of Villa Rica, Georgia, and his company is called Vital Creations, Inc. The next slide is my bio, and you've already discussed my background and history. If you want to scroll through there, or is it me that has control of it?
No, I do.
Okay.
It doesn't let me scroll. It just shows the whole slide.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yep, I see Paul's picture.
You don't see yours?
I see it on the side. You can't grab
Well,
that bar and run it
I'm
down?
looking. Okay, let me. Something's not working here with showing the full.
There.
When I do slideshow. Okay. Oh wait, let me try this again. Let me make that bigger. Okay, that's about as big as I can do it, and still have control.
Yeah,
There
I
we go.
started in ICU back in 1979, 32 years at the bedside in intensive care, running ventilators and dialysis machines. And then I had a child and I needed banker's hours, and I ended up working at Anthem Blue Cross, and I worked my way up till I was the sole transplant case manager for 7 million people in 3 states. And I learned a whole lot about transplant medicine and cancer and stuff like that. This slide shows a toroidal field, and unfortunately it's not moving, but that ribbon moves around inside of the toroidal field. Oh, there it goes. So this represents the field from the pulsed electromagnetic frequencies coming off of the Tesla coil with that zero energy point in the middle. And all of the energy in that field recirculates back down through that center point, or Paul calls it the sweet spot. It's called 0 point, but it's really everything, because all the energy goes through that little choke point there. And then the ribbon waving through it would represent your Rife frequency, which is a different type of carrier wave. And then imagine another ribbon coming in that has terahertz frequency, and then another ribbon coming in that has vibrational energy, and another ribbon coming in that has color lights in the frequency of each of the colors, and then add sound. And then that's another ribbon in that toroidal field. And then you add vibration, and then you have displacement, and you have hertz from that, and you have velocity. So 3 different carrier waves of vectors or energy forms within that toroidal field. And you get all of this quantum entanglement of all these different energies. And that image there helps give a good idea in your mind of how it works through. And you're putting your body right over that sweet spot and getting all those energies put into you. And this is just another illustration of how you create free energy. This is the 369. And when you go over the same point over and over again, it starts to amplify the energy field, and you get more energy created than what it's using. And in fact, Paul found that the Tesla table takes less energy to run the entire system than it does to run your smart TV. The first table that he ever sold was to an Amish couple up in Pennsylvania, because they don't believe in pills. And so they ran the table off of I think a 15-volt battery on a hand drill up in their barn. And they put it on a converter and ran the table off of that hand drill. But it's pretty cool that something so incredible, the first customers were the Amish community. This is talking about homeostasis, and it is going to ionize your body. So what happens when you put electricity into our body? Well, it recharges our cells at the cellular level, but it changes your electromagnetic field. And PEMF off of the Tesla coil, it's an electron donor. And we get disruption in our electrons in the atomic level of our bodies from interference from 5G and these super high frequencies and these, frequency weapons that they're using against us, stuff coming out of your television screen and everything. It creates a wobble and interrupts the orbit of the electrons. And it can even cleave them off entirely and change the polarity of your cells. And then your body doesn't work right because your cells can't talk to each other because their electrical current isn't set right. So just like fine tuning a dial, your body can absorb the electron from the PEMF and that toroidal field. It'll just pick it up right out of the ether and absorb it to restore your cellular polarity. And it does an electromagnetic reset of your whole body at one time. And then it also affects the brain waves like we discussed. This together creates the parasympathetic metabolism where you go into self-healing when you're in a state of homeostasis. Oh, down at the bottom, benefits include relief of stress, better mood, focus, energy. It's anti-aging, and it improves circulation and metabolic function so you can recover more quickly from injuries, and it reduces inflammation and therefore pain. When you ionize the blood or the lymph or any water anywhere in your body, it puts it into an orderly crystalline structure, which basically means anything solid in that water is going to line up single file. And therefore, it can flow right through cell membranes. It can flow right through the tiniest capillaries or vessels of your lymphatics. And it allows for improved metabolism by better blood flow to deliver nutrients and oxygen to the tissues and to also drain toxins out of the body by improving the drainage of lymph when it's ionized. So this ionization process, just like drinking structured water being good for you, this is good for your metabolism too. And there's one of our clients last year at the Rebels of Disclosure on the table. And oh my goodness, this gentleman got up and he was elated. He says, I'm not even standing on the ground, I'm floating. He had such elation and wonderful experience from the energy. But when you're in this homeostasis, it switches off your fight or flight. So that shuts off your adrenaline, it shuts down your cortisol, and it makes your hormones go back into a balance that turns on a whole other set of metabolic functions so that your body goes on the offensive and it starts seeking out problems that need correcting. Our bodies are made to automatically do this if they're in this calm state. And that's what the table does. It puts you in that calm state, and then the body fixes itself. So we can measure your brain waves, and it's called an EEG. You can measure the conduction of electricity through your heart. And there's your PQRST complex of the waveforms on your EKG. And I used to do this, in my daily job. So I understood waveforms and frequency very well before I ever found out about the Tesla stuff. So this was a natural segue for me coming from my ICU background. If you use your thoughts and intentions, you're putting another carrier wave into that toroidal field, and you can actually control the healing that you get by using your thoughts to control what you desire to have as an outcome of being in this energy field. You can take, for example, dark blue. It has a conceptual characteristic, and the gland that is affected by the dark blue color frequency range is your thyroid. And the qualities in your physical body are communication, truth, and creative arts. And if it's not in balance, you will feel depression and ignorance. And the frequency of dark blue is 141.27 hertz. So every color has a therapeutic benefit, just like every note on the musical scale, which is what the solfeggios are. Is your do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. There we go. Do, let's start at 174 hertz. That's to relieve pain and stress. And as you go through the scale, this is the hertz that corresponds with those notes. And these are the therapeutic benefits of each of these frequencies. And when I do a session on the table, I will run through all of these in sequence. And it'll fix your body, mind, and spirit. This is what I was talking about, the 5G disrupting your cellular communication. It damages your DNA. It changes your electrical potential and polarity. And it causes all sorts of conditions, reproductive problems. It increases your oxidative stress and premature aging results. Energy loss, poor appetite, losing your hair, and depression, confusion. All these things are from prolonged radiation toxicity. 5G is up in the 60 gigahertz range. That's 60 billion with a B hertz. And our bodies just aren't meant to tolerate that. And here's a photo of a baby deer, a fawn, up on the Tessla table because a veterinarian was using a Tessla table in her vet practice. And that's the guy you hear barking in the background. It says he wants to go out in the middle of this presentation. But every time I get on the table or have somebody here on the table, this dog is laying right next to the Tesla coil. Animals feel frequency and they know.
They do. We're up on a break. We're going to take about a 3-minute break, and we'll be back right after this.
Okay, thank you.
Then you can take care of your little doggy.
Yeah, he needs to go out.
While most near-death experiencers return to this plane of existence with alluring tales of their time spent in the presence of the divine, what happens when one crosses the veil into the afterlife, into the void? In the new book, Dying to Meet Them, Mindy Toutfest describes her journey to the afterlife after a devastating aneurysm, how a strange turn of events would lead her to spiritual growth, divine healing, UFO experiences, and a greater understanding of the universe. Get your copy of Dying to Meet Them today at Amazon.com or visit unxmedia.com for more information on this book and more amazing selections from UnX Media Publishing at unxmedia.com.
Tickets are now on sale for Rebels of Disclosure 2025, May 12th through the 15th in Grafton, Illinois at the beautiful Pierre Marquette Lodge and Conference Center. This will be a 4-day event with 12 speakers covering topics such as ET contact, experiencer testimonies, lost history, secret space programs, time travel, Illuminati, parallel realities, and so much more. Visit journeytotruth.online for more details.
The The Onyx Network classes and workshops are enrolling now for 2025. If you're interested in psychic protection, chakra balancing, dowsing, or perhaps healing with sound and music, visit onyxnetwork.com to see our complete series of live and on-demand classes and workshops hosted by the one and only Margie Kay. For example, in January 2025, you could spend 4 Saturdays with Margie for her exclusive live remote viewing workshop. Margie Kay is one of the most accomplished remote viewers in the world, and she will share her secrets and totally unique methods in this course. Some courses are open now. Seating is limited for these live courses, so register now at onyxnetwork.com. Onyx members use promo code XMEM for an additional 15% discount.
And we're back with Onyx News. I'm your host, Margie Kay, and we have a special long edition for you this evening. We are speaking with Sheryl, and she is taking care of her little doggy right now. So I'm going to share a story with everybody, and this is why I got my own Tessla Med Bed at the Journey to Truth conference last year. My husband was the first one who was sold on it. And he got in it, and he came back. He says, you got to do this. So I did, and I think I was only in it maybe 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes at the most. And about halfway through, while lying there, I noticed something. Now, you all know that I do remote viewing, and as a part of that, I meditate all the time, and I can get myself into a trance-like state very quickly. But this happened just spur of the moment, wasn't even trying to do that. And I was in a meditative state, Sheryl, while I was in that med bed. So I knew something was going on. But then something happened that I wasn't expecting. And all of a sudden, just fading into view is this beautiful blue avian face. I could just see her face of a woman. And she had blue feathers, and just blue feathers all over her face. And I knew I was looking at something I'd never seen before. Now, my listeners know I've seen ETs. I've seen different types, and I'm in contact with several. But this was a first. I'd never seen that. And then what happened next was just amazing. She just get closer and closer and closer, and then I could feel her energy go inside me. So I had her energy inside me. She just walked into me, and there were no words spoken. It was just this happening, this event, this experience. And then I got up from the table, went in the ladies' room. I looked in the mirror, and I didn't see me. I saw the blue avian in the mirror looking back at me. And I was just amazed. And then that kind of faded out. And then I noticed something weird about my eyes. And I know you cannot see now probably through this, but I have now a blue ring around the outside of my iris, which is brown. And it hasn't gone away. It's stayed that way ever since. And it's just this really bright blue. So Sheryl, what happened to me? Got to ask.
You raised your frequency so high that you started vibrating on par with a higher dimensional being that was then able to clearly communicate and share space with you, obviously. I had a gentleman on the table that's never done any esoteric kind of thing in his life. He was a tree trimmer, and I started to talk about him. He's a fascinating case. He was diabetic. He had no feeling in his legs from the knees down for 2 years. And he got on my table. He fell asleep within 2 minutes and was snoring. And at 20 minutes, I had to wake him up. And I didn't want to let him go too long on there because you can get detox symptoms if it's, something you're not used to detoxing. You don't want to pull everything out all at once. So you got to limit it and build up your tolerance for it. But I woke him up at 20 minutes and he says, "Oh my God, I need a pen and some paper." And I gave it to him and he sat on my kitchen table and he drew out an eyeball with big lashes, and he said, and it was opening and closing, and there were vines that were moving around and opening and closing in front of it. And he says, "This was my dream. It was purple and black, like it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. What is it?" And I said, "Look at your picture. It's an eye." He says, "Yeah, it is an eye." I said, "You just activated your pineal gland." So he had like a DMT trip.
Yeah.
And then he says, "Oh my God, I can feel my legs. I haven't been able to feel my feet in 2 years." And then he goes, "And my thighs usually burn. Like if the hair moves on my thighs, it creates a burning feeling, but I don't have any pain anywhere." And this happened in 20 minutes. And so, he kept coming back. But one other time, I opened a door and the light shined in. It was real sunny. And he says, "That got my attention and I opened my eyes, but I didn't see white light. I saw liquid purple marble. Everything was like a kaleidoscope and it was beautiful." I said, "Dude, I wish I could have your experience when I get on the table," because he gets his pineal activations when he gets on. And I was
Awesome.
using frequencies for diabetes and inflammation. So,
So besides being,
for everybody.
besides helping you with health issues, it also helps raise your vibration and raise your level of consciousness and
If
wake up
you
the
have
pineal
gifts,
gland. Yeah.
you
So if you
can really
use your
project them.
psychic abilities, you want to use your third eye. Wow. I mean, this is just, it's kind of like cheating almost because you're instantly in that state of mind.
Someone did Reiki over me while I was on the Tesla table. And he said, "There's something here. I can feel it." Oh, there's two things. There's a tube and it goes all the way up like a portal. And there's a rope, kind of like a half of a DNA strand or like a snake that goes right next to it. And it goes all the way up. And there's something in that tube, and I can't see what it is. I don't know what it is, but it comes from your womb and it goes all the way up. And I was like, okay. And then I met you, Margie. Do you remember when you met me? I shook your hand and you went, "Oh my God." And I was like, "What?" And you said, "Well, there's a lot of you in there." And you were able to perceive that I was being utilized as a portal for multiple extraterrestrials, and they come and they collect intel and take it back to their councils or planets or whatever they're doing to help continue to evolve the plan to help get humanity out of this mess. And so I'm not even aware of this happening, and yet there's two completely separate incidents that kind of told me the same information. I'm still figuring it out, but I've had a lot of psychic visions and supernatural things. Like I've seen, and I have 2 different armies of light beings that have shown themselves to me. And right after Trump got in office, I actually had a visit from one of those groups of angels in their light bodies. And that's when I had those 3 nights of prophetic dreams about these frequencies. 528 is also another thing that I was dreaming about, and that is the love frequency. It's also DNA repair. And so 528, there's nothing that isn't helped by using 528 frequency. And it's probably one of the most powerful ones that you can use because it puts you back to your original blueprint. It makes you work the way you were meant to be, the way we were created to work. But the other frequencies were those ones for inflammation that I knew so well from treating people. And then when they started doing this brain mapping and looking at the theta brain waves that they're able to induce in a very, like, instantaneously, when you get on the table, it's got you instantly in that theta brainwave pattern. Then it, the same exact hertz as the frequencies that help with pain and inflammation. So yeah, gamma waves, you see, you're really stimulated there, in the sawtooth, beta too. But theta is that hypnotic state, like drowsiness, dreaming, light dreaming. When you're falling asleep, when you first wake up, there's no emotion. You can't possibly feel anger or stress when you're in that theta pattern. And then delta is like unconscious. But in theta, you're not unconscious. You know, you may be having dreams and your brain is very active, but that's the peaceful state that you get. And that's, you know, where you get your homeostasis. So yeah, this guy got his sensation back in 20 minutes after not being able to have any feeling for 2 years. That was pretty awesome. I created I eliminated back spasms in 20 minutes for my own self by using just 174 and 727 for 10 minutes on each frequency. And I was, you know, lifting 70-pound boxes, and I was able to keep doing it and not have any pain. So it's amazing what you can do with frequency. There's a miniature version of that Tesla table in this little box. It's not much bigger than an iPad. It's 2 inches high, 10 by 6 inches across. And then it's programmable Rife frequencies that goes to 9,999. It has miniature Tesla coils, 2 of them inside, that are at 180 degree opposition. And instead of plasma lights with noble gases, this device uses terahertz. And they create terahertz as a harmonic resonance of the blue light wave frequency, which is like 405 nanometers is the frequency of it. But it uses those 3 carrier waves. And you can see there's a little square on the top, on the left and the right side. And those have radionics programmed into the circuitry, where it picks up the frequency on the left plate and transfers it over to the right side, and also incorporates that in the field. It creates a toroidal field, and you can see on the right image where the light bulb is lit up, just like on the Tesla table, there's enough energy created to light a bulb up that's still in the package there. So the frequencies that are on the left plate, if you put like a essential oil or a crystal or your supplements, you know, a vitamin D capsule on the left side, that frequency of that medication is going to be infused into your body, and you get the therapeutic effect of it without any side effects, without having to ingest it. So you get the benefit without having to take it. And then tomorrow you can take the same vitamin D you took yesterday. So you save a lot on your supplements that way. But you can also infuse it into the right side by putting a glass of water or a carrier oil there, and you can create your own medications. So you can make homeopathics with this device and with the Tesla table. The computer has this on the top of it too. And you can create duplicates by taking the one that has the frequencies in it, putting it over to the left side, and then putting another, glass of water or a carrier oil on the right side, and transferring those frequencies from the left to the right to make duplications of your medicines. So there's a lot of crazy things you can do with this technology. He has a little vertical tower with bulbs in a circular pattern. You have to sit very close to this unit to get benefit from it. The Tesla table puts you in between those lights, and it magnifies the field much more intensely when you're on the Tesla table. But this is the same principle. It's a little more aesthetic. A lot of people don't have room for a massage table, and they like to have this instead. And they'll put it in the middle of the room on their coffee table, or use it instead of a coffee table. On the right side is a lymph massager, but it has 2 Tesla coils in the handle of that device, and it has neon in that curly bulb. And it ionizes your body and adds oxygen right through your skin, and it ionizes the fluids so that your lymph will drain real easily. And so massage therapists typically are the ones who are purchasing that wand. And so there's all kinds of different bioenergetic devices that they all work a little differently, but they all do work. They all create scalar. And some of them do certain things faster than others, but the Tesla table is the bomb diggity, and it does your whole body at once, and it works remote.
Well, this is just fascinating. I'm so glad we found you and found the Tesla table. My husband and I love it. It has helped me so much with my back pain. It's unreal. And some other things as well. So I want to thank you so much for being with me tonight, Sheryl, and spending 2 hours. That's a long time. Most of my shows are 1 hour long. In fact, they're all 1 hour long. But thank you, and I really appreciate you spending the time to explain some of this to us. How can people get in touch with you?
My contact information is on my website, and I do my best on a one-on-one basis. So if you call me or text me, I can do appointments over the phone and help you figure stuff out with my health and detox coaching. That website is thefrequency369.com. So it's
Okay.
THEFREQENCY 369.com.
And yeah, we know all about Tesla saying, if we only knew the secrets of 369. So thank you very much. And thanks to everybody who've listened to the show tonight or watched it. I appreciate it. Appreciate everybody in the chat. And we'll see you here again next week.